Hello there, it's Hadar, and we're going live. This is a live lesson, and I'm with my glasses so I can see your comments. Last time, I didn't have my glasses on, and I couldn't read any of your comments. So here goes. I'm going live answering questions regarding my last lesson, the T and the D, the flap T and the flap D. Hi everyone, thank you for commenting. Hi, let me know where you're from. Tell me in the comments so I know. And what language do you speak? Okay, so Horatio from Mexico and Douglas. What's shaking, Douglas? Hi guys. Eliezer, Miranda from Brazil. And we have Yaman from Syria. Hi Everyone. And Hamza from Lebanon. Rodrigo from Brazil, and Jordan, Ahmed from Jordan. You speak Arabic. I know that. We're neighbors. You know that. Noam from Tel Aviv. Hi, guys. Good to see you. So think of your questions while I'm speaking now, and then let me know in the comments what is still not clear about the T's and the D's. So here's the thing. It's very confusing because these are very inconsistent consonants. We usually think that consonants are pretty consistent in English, and the vowels are kind of flaky and tricky because, you know, we see the A, but we're not sure if it's A or A or I. And with consonants, we think, okay, the D is always D, and the T is always T, thank God, and that's it. But no, with T's and D's, and T's in particular, the sounds are very inconsistent because it really depends on where the sound is positioned in the word. Let's begin by talking about the T sound. I have a video, I actually have a few videos about the different T's, but I think the flap T is the most confusing one. But I have a few videos that you can check out. Just go to American pronunciation playlist, and then you'll find my T videos. Now, here's the thing. There are 8 different ways to pronounce the T in American English. When it's at the beginning of a word, it's aspirated. So it feels like, I'm going to take my glasses off because right now I only see the lights reflecting, so you can't see my eyes, and that's kind of disturbing. And I can actually read the comments. So what is the flap T? We'll get to it. So the T at the beginning of words the T's in the beginning of words are aspirated. That means that it feels like there is a little H right after. Time. Time. Now try it with me. Time. Take. It's not take. 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 Tell. Tough. Okay, so when there is a T and then a vowel right after, it's aspirated, so there is this little H sound, almost like you're whispering. It's a strong sound. And it also appears at the beginning of a strong syllable. Atomic or fantastic. Okay? Now, notice that when there is another consonant right before the T, like star, then it's not aspirated, okay? Only when the T stands alone at the beginning of a word, right before a vowel, that's when it's aspirated, okay? So you want to push air, but you don't need to, push all the air that is in your lungs, okay? It's only air that is locked in your mouth. Time, okay? So that's the aspirated T. When the T is between 2 vowels in unstressed syllables, this is when we pronounce it like a D, and if you've seen my recent video, you know that it's not really a D, it sounds like a D, and then we pronounce it like this. Better. Getting. Activity. Activity. It's not activity, activity. Now you're thinking to yourself, okay, she's saying something like a D, but notice I'm not saying activity, right? It's not a strong D. It's not get it. It's not get it. It's very light. It's called a flap T. It's flapping against the upper palate. It's like high-fiving it. It's giving it a little touch, and that's it. You're suggesting that there is a T there. But unlike a regular T, you're also activating your vocal cords, which gets me to the main difference between T's and D's, and that is the vocal cords, right? For D's, we are also activating the vocal cords, meaning it's vibrating. We can feel it. Day, right? We feel the vibrations of the vocal cords. So let's try this together for a sec. Let's pronounce an F consonant. Put your hands on your throat. And now try a V as in very. Now, you're supposed to feel vibrations here. The first sound is just air coming out between your lips and teeth. And then the second sound is air coming out with voice. The vocal cords are also vibrating. Okay, and that's the difference between the F and the V. Same thing with T's and D's. T's are just air coming out. You block the air, and then you release the air. T, t. That's the T, just air. D is the same. You block the air with your tongue. You release the air, but you're also activating the vocal cords. D, D, D. Okay? So that's a T and a D. But when the T's and the D's appear in the same position, that is, in the middle of the word between two vowels, and I've seen some of you already writing this, it does not sound like T or D. It sounds like a new sound that is united to both of those consonants, and that is R. R. And yes, as some of you mentioned, it does sound like a Spanish R, like a Spanish light R. R. It also sounds like a partial Arabic R, for those of you who speak Arabic, or even a Russian R, right? R, R, R. In Japanese, the sound exists. In Korean as well. R, R, R. It's not D, D, D. It's not T, T, T. It's R. And it happens only when it appears between two vowels in unstressed syllables. For example, president, wedding. And if we're thinking of words with T, activity, butter, butter, right? I'm not saying butter. It's not butter, butter, ra, ra, ra. Yes, guys, it is a Spanish R, ra, 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 only when the T is between two vowels, okay? So when it's between two vowels, also when it's between an R and a vowel, like party or 30, here it sounds a little less like a Spanish R. It sounds more like a very light D, party, right? It's hard to do something like party, 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 30. And I'm thinking of more words. I'll come up with more artist, for example, artist, right? It's not artist. So that's the T between two vowels, but that's also the D between two vowels. It happens when the D is also at the end of a word and the next word begins with a consonant, like good idea. Good idea. I'm not saying good idea. Good, good idea. Good evening. Same thing as get it. Get it. At it. What did I say? At it. When I'm saying it like that, it can be two things. At it, or add it, right? Add it. So this is why American English can be very confusing, because all of a sudden you're hearing a D, you're thinking it's a D, and you're trying to figure out what is this word when it's actually a T. Let's look at the word editor. Editor. What am I saying? I'm saying editor. E-D-I, editor. E-D-I-T-O-R, right? Editor. But no one says it like that. The T and the D are between two vowels in unstressed syllables. Both of them sound exactly the same. Editor. Editor. Writing. Am I saying writing a book or riding a bike? It's the same sound, right? It depends on the context. Writing and writing sounds the same. Now, the difference between a regular D at the beginning of a word and this flap T is the tension, is the length of the sound. So for example, when the D is at the beginning of a word, day, day, I'm bringing the tongue up, d, I'm holding my breath, I'm allowing air pressure to build up, and then I'm releasing it, day. Now, in the word president, sorry, I keep going back to this word because right now I don't have more ideas for words with D's in the middle, so you're invited to write more words with D's between vowels right here in the comments and I'll pronounce them. So when we have a word like president or editor, that's when we don't allow enough time for air pressure to build up. Editor, editor, okay? So that's the main difference between D's at the beginning and D's in the middle of the word. The difference between T's at the beginning and T's in the middle of the word is bigger, right? So the T's at the beginning are also aspirated. Time. T's in the middle of the word between vowels are flap T's or D's, right? It's the same sound, like writer, like butter. T's at the end of words are held, okay? So it's kind of like you're not even releasing it. Wait, wait, get, let. It also happens when there is a consonant right after. Let me, let me. I'm not saying let me. Network, network. Okay, there is no T. And this is another reason why sometimes Americans are going to be unclear because you're expecting to hear a T because you know how the word is written, right? You're not hearing a T, so you're thinking to yourself, it's probably a different word. Or you're going to different words that are in your brain that don't have a T, and you can't find one because there isn't. There aren't any words that sound like network and don't have a T, right? And that's when it gets really, really confusing. But when you know how it should sound at the end of a word, then you know how to, when you know to recognize that it's a T, although you don't really hear a T, that's when it becomes a little easier to understand native speakers. So what I really want you to do is stop trying to understand the words or understand people speaking through the filter of the written word, okay? Because it's not going to sound like it's written. Definitely not the vowels, since you only have 5 vowels, 5 vowel letters and about 16 vowels, and not even consonants, right? Football, foot, that's the T, this abrupt stop of air, football. And when you are trying to pronounce it, work on not releasing the T when it's at the end of a word or at the right before a consonant. Now, what happens when there is a T after an N? See if you know. So for example, I'll say 20, right? That's maybe a more British way of saying it, 20. Or if I'm reading it phonetically, 20. But when the T appears after an N, you often drop it, okay? So it's not 20, it's 20, 20. Wanted, center, interview, internet, international. So when the T appears after an N, it can drop. I'm saying can because a lot of Americans will still pronounce the T, interview versus interview. Americans may pronounce, the same person may pronounce the T one day and another day won't pronounce the T in the same word depending on how fast they speak or the context. Okay, so when the T appears after an N, you can drop it, but it has to be an unstressed syllable. I just saw a question, what about central? Central is not the same because there is no vowel after the T. So it's when the T appears after an N before vowel. Okay, that was a really good question. International, yes, I can drop it. International. I recommend my students, sorry, microphone. I recommend my students actually to drop the T because it definitely sounds more American when you drop it. But if it's weird and uncomfortable, it's more important that you feel comfortable, especially since a lot of Americans do pronounce the T after an N. One more manifestation of the T is when the T appears before a schwa, a reduced vowel, and an N, as in the word kitten. It's not kitten. It's not kitten, because then it sounds like I'm kidding. It's kitten, kitten. Can you hear that? I'm bringing the tongue up. Everything has to do with the tongue and, stopping the air somehow when it comes to the T. So I'm bringing the tongue up, but then I'm releasing the air through my nose, kitten, mountain, mountain. I know it's hard and almost impossible for some of you, but if you practice it or if you just listen to it, then you may get used to it and understand that that's what's going on when the T appears before a reduced vowel, a schwa, and an N. Forgotten. It is not forgotten. It's not a flap T here. Forgotten. Sentence. Good example. Good example. Sentence. Same thing here. Sentence. Also, look what I did. I stopped my breath here as well. Sentence. Sentence. All right, both options are okay. If you can't notice the difference, choose one that sounds okay to you. But if it's difficult, look, make it a very small true T. Sentence, mountain, forgotten, Hilton. That's okay. You're supposed to say Hilton. Most Americans do say it, but British speakers will pronounce the T here, Hilton. And if you use the very small T here, then it's still super clear and you're on the right track. Just don't make it a flap T, like forgotten or kitten or Hilden. Okay, so that's, I think, the most important thing here. Okay, so we talked about the T at the beginning of a word. We talked about the T between two vowels, the T after an N, the T before a schwa and an N. When we talked about the flap T that appears between two vowels, we said that it resembles the D that appears between two vowels as well. And then it's the same sound, which doesn't sound like either a T or a D. It actually sounds like a Spanish R. Okay? Confusing? No. And what else? When the T appears before a TH, then it's also a held sound. So for example, if we say at the, you don't really hear the T. You bring the tongue to touch the teeth for the T, at, and then you release air, the. At them, at them, get them, or I bet, right? That's the trick, that's the tip. Bring the tip of the tongue to touch the teeth, I bet that, and then the tongue is already out there and you can easily release your tongue for the vibrations of the TH. At them, get them. Okay, so that's the T before a TH. When the T appears after an S, that's just a true T, like star, stiff, and stone, right? Nothing too interesting here. Notice, all you Spanish speakers, that when ST appear at the beginning of words, there is no vowel before. It's not a star, a stone, and a strange. You gotta practice starting with the S. So if it's almost impossible for you, then whisper the S and then start speaking on the S. S, strange, strange, star, stuck. Okay, so that's something, that's a little note about the ST at the beginning of words. Okay, so let's look at the comments here. Lots of comments. See if I have some. Okay, Udaf is asking, do Americans understand British accent or British people? Oh no. Yes, depending on where they're from. So if they have a very thick British accent, or, you know, very unfamiliar dialect, a dialect that they haven't heard before, they may not be clear about the substitutions right from the start. So it's not just that they don't understand foreign speakers. They don't understand sounds that do not resemble their sounds. They're expecting to hear the language in a certain way, right? They're expecting to hear I when there is the sound I, like my. But if someone pronounces it as oi, right? And they usually connect the oi with toy, coin, and boy. When they hear it in words with I, then it gets confusing to them. And it takes a few seconds, few minutes, a few days to understand that oi loik in some dialects is actually I like. And non-native speakers may not pronounce the long I sound. They'll just say I like. And then it's going to take some time for them to understand that as well. Okay, so even if you have an accent, even if you have a thick accent and you're speaking to someone that is speaking to you for the first time, don't get frustrated. Don't get angry with them for not understanding you, because their brain is, you know, divided into categories. And in the categories, there are sounds that are expecting to hear. And if they don't get these sounds, then it's hard for them to associate it with the right word. So assume that it'll take them some time to understand and get used to your accent and understand the substitutions that you're making, and then it's going to be easier for them to speak. So if you're a fast speaker and you have a foreign accent, then definitely try to speak a little slower when you're first encountering people, no native speakers. Okay, I'm looking at more questions. Winter turns into winter. Douglas is writing. Yes, so you can say either winter or winter. Wanted can turn into wanted. Center into center. Absolutely. How do you have so much patience to explain that? Because that's what I do, and that's what I love doing. I can now speak forever, but I have a lesson in just a little bit, so we need to wrap it up really soon. Okay, sentence. Okay, great question. Kitten and kitchen. Okay, good question. What's the difference between the two? Kitten and kitchen. So the first one has a nasal T, that's how I call it. Kitten, kitten. So I bring the tongue up and release air through the nose. Kitten. And kitchen, right, has a ch sound. It's actually a T and a sh, as in shine. Ch, ch. As in chicken, kitchen. So technically it's two different sounds, right? It's like t versus chin, kitten and kitchen. Okay, greetings from Brazil. Thank you. Okay, so let's see if you have more questions. I actually have some questions here that I promised to answer. So, sorry, I'm just gonna look at the difference between, where is that? Adam, the name, Adam, my name's Adam, and atom, like the small little substance that is the smallest substance we have, atom, A-T-O-M. Yes, they sound absolutely the same. If we say atomic, the stress shifts, and then the T is the beginning of a stressed syllable, and then it's no longer a flap T. It's an aspirated T. Okay? There's a chicken in my kitchen. Someone wrote in the comments. Try it. It's a good tongue twister. There's a chicken in my kitchen. How can I improve my speaking skills if there are no English speakers where I live? Shadowing methods work? Yes. Okay, so Udaf is asking, how can I improve my speaking skills? Yes, so the first thing I would say is don't stop. Okay, turn every speaking opportunity or every learning opportunity or encountering English opportunity into a practice opportunity, which means if you read out loud. If you listen to television, Imitate it, okay? Imitate what you're hearing. Shadowing is great, but it's only partial. It's not enough. Imitation exercises where you record yourself and listen to yourself. So pick a TED Talk and play a sentence and then listen to it. Repeat it. Pause. Repeat again. Record it. Listen to it. See where it's very different from the original. Try to work on those things. If there is a word that is pronounced completely different than how you're saying it, try to detect what sound it is that makes you sound a little different. Speak to yourself. Speak to friends, even if they're not native speakers. I'm sure that everyone wants to practice their English if you live in a non-English country. And and even if they don't give you feedback, and even if their grammar is terrible, and yours is as well, it doesn't matter. It's all about the act of searching for the words, of trying to figure out what to say, of trying to express yourself in English. And it's good to do it with someone else, especially with someone who wants to practice their English as well. Okay, so do that. Don't be shy. Give it a try. Speak to your husbands and wives and spouses and children and parents, okay, your friends. So, and if you don't feel comfortable or they don't want to do that, then speak to yourself. Close the door and just, speak out your thoughts. This is a very effective exercise. And try to find opportunities to speak. And there are many of them if you go online and search for some. And yes, so let's see if we have another major question that I can answer. Twitter. I'm just reading random words. Twitter, flap T. How can I learn English? Google that. I think you'll find plenty of answers. Written, important, all of them have the nasal T, very good. These are not flap Ts, okay? So, yes. That is flap T. That is bottom, right? Another flap T. Notice that here we have an M at the end, so I'm not releasing it through the nose. Okay? Good. I'm going to go through these comments in a little bit, and then if I have more important things to say, I'll go live again. If not, I'll just write you back in the comments. So if you have more questions, just let me know in the comments once the video is published. I'm going to go live once a week at this time, every Wednesday, for the next few weeks to answer questions and to deal with important topics about American pronunciation. So if you have questions about different things, let me know and I'll do my best to answer in those lessons. Thank you so much for being such a great audience, answering questions and commenting. I love it. And that's it. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, and share my channel with your friends if you think that they'll enjoy and benefit from learning American pronunciation. Thanks again, and have a good day, good night, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Bye.